So with all the dozens of reviews of The Savior's Champion by Jenna Moreci already on YouTube, what possible excuse can there be for creating another one? I'm Larry. I am the captain of this ship, and I am the creator of this video. And today we are going to be discussing, yes, The Savior's Champion by Jenna Moreci. And I wouldn't have done it if I didn't think I had something new to bring to the table. While we're doing the review, I'm going to take a page from Jenna's own book and use it to our advantage in this review. One of the reasons why you watch Jenna's channel in the first place is probably the same reason I do. She takes care to give you that which is adorable and attractive as something to watch while she conveys the information. And we're going to do that here. This is Jojo, and this is Kracko. They are my two adorable sweet pussycats, and they will be doing all sorts of fascinating things for you while you listen to the review. One theme of this review is that whether you like The Savior's Champion or not is going to depend greatly on your frame of reference. What did you expect? I actually began reading the novel with very, very few expectations, and that impacted my experience of whether I liked the book or not. Now, that doesn't mean I was expecting it to be bad. It just means that I went into it with very few expectations in the sense that, well, the story has to be this way and it can't be that way. What was I actually expecting? I was expecting correct spelling, grammar, punctuation. I got that. I expected a coherent plot. I expected a protagonist and one or more antagonists. I expected a love interest, preferably a strong female character. I got that. I expected what Jenna calls dark shit. Suffering, murder, maybe torture. I got that. I expected some of the trappings of fantasy stories. The presence of magic, castles, dungeons, a larger world with common elements from ancient Greece, Roman, or the medieval period. That's about it. That there wasn't an actual labyrinth in the book, even though a labyrinth is emphasized on the cover, that never fazed me because, number one, I wasn't paying close attention to the cover to begin with, and two, if I had been, a labyrinth would not have been a major selling point for me for the book. I do agree with the idea that the cover emphasizes a labyrinth and an actual labyrinth does not appear in the book. Is that a little bit misleading? Yes. We'll shift gears for a moment, and I'll tell you about the most important part of the book that did not work well for me. There's spoilers coming up, so if you haven't read the book and want to be surprised, go no further with this review. Okay, there is a sequence in which Tobias, as one of the challenges, has to create a gift for the Savior, whom he has been led to believe is Cosima, and decides to draw something, and can't do it, and Layla helps him in a guided meditation. Afterwards, Tobias discovers to his horror that he's unable to draw anything other than Layla, who is obviously not Cosima. Now, this is a major plot point of the novel. Boy meets girl, and girl has to come to understand how boy feels about her. The drawings are that mechanism. The problem is that this didn't work for me, meaning that it took me out of the story with a "what?" reaction. I am not making my living as an artist, but I've done enough creative work in my life to know that the creative process doesn't work like that. Even when the girl of your dreams guides you in meditation, do you go into an altered state so removed from reality that you have no awareness and no control of your actions, so that you involuntarily draw the same subject 4 times? Now, this is too big a plot point, and Jenna is too sharp a creator that she would create an end product of this sort without good reason. So there are 2 possible interpretations of what's going on here. Meanwhile, Jojo notices that something's about to happen and is thinking, Oh no, what awful mischief is he gonna do now? Hey, I want a drink, says Kracko. Yeah, but not when I'm getting all wet, says Jojo. I gotta get out of here. Oh, now I'm all wet. What was that? Meanwhile, back at the review, there are two possible interpretations of what's going on here. The lousier possibility is that even when beta readers, critique partners, and so on brought this up, she weighed the alternatives and then made a decision. Nope. Tobias's creativity has simply been overwhelmed by the meditation and by his new feelings for Layla, and there's nothing mysterious about it and there's nothing deeper. This just feels right, and I'm making a command decision, and that's the end of it. The better possibility is that Jenna is going to surprise us. No, of course it doesn't make sense that Tobias's creative powers would suddenly take on a mind of their own. And yes, that experience that he had damn straight is a side effect of two things interacting. The first one is the guided meditation that Layla helped Tobias with. The other is the Savior's magic, and that plot point is going to be developed in future novels later in the series. But in the meantime, they were in a life or death tournament, and there just wasn't time to begin to develop that thread here. The thread that the Savior's magic has side effects, especially when it could not be self-contained within the first book. But watch out for this in the future. So let's shift gears and let me tell you the stuff in the book that did work for me. Number one is the pacing. It never felt slow, and I never had the sense of, why is this dragging on, or why is this jumping too fast? That didn't happen, and that's what you want to happen as an author. Number two, the main characters. In a nutshell, Tobias and Layla are likable enough. Yeah, they have flaws, but their flaws are not so overpowering that I want to throw up and walk away. Spending time with them is not something that I regret. Number three, the plot is imaginative enough, especially the underground contests. I was interested to find out what kind of challenge they would encounter next, and when they did encounter the challenge, how they would survive it. Now, part of this, I suspect, is because of how I myself approach the story. If I approach the story with the mindset of, hey, I'm a sophisticated consumer of literature, or as someone who has just read a lot of novels, I might have fallen into the trap of constantly comparing this creative work to something else. Hey, these traps are not nearly as interesting as the ones in this other novel, etc. But that didn't happen. Instead, I tried to approach this story similar to that of a young child. From the young child's perspective, there are not a million other stories that you've read or viewed before. There's nothing to compare it to. I was reading this story as if there was nothing else in the world. No comparisons, no expectations, just tell me what happens next. Finally, the structure of the book worked in the sense that the author left me with the right number of questions, breadcrumbs to keep me reading, not too many and not too few. Two more areas of comment. One is with names. I've seen a number of reviews of this novel, and a number of reviewers were bothered by the fact that there were so many characters and so many names to keep track of, and it was clearly just too much for people. My reaction is, yeah, there are a lot of characters and there are a lot of names to keep track of. Isn't that just like real life? Is it written somewhere that you are not supposed to, as a reader, do any extra work at all aside from turning the page and reading word after word, sentence after sentence? We're not saying that you as the reader should be forced to do unnecessary work. But who decides what is necessary? In my case, I decided early on in the book that, you know what, 20 competitors and a whole shitload of names is just too much for me to keep track of just with memory alone. So I'm reading this at the computer anyway as an ebook, so I am going to make notes. And I did, and I kept a list for myself, and I updated it whenever so-and-so got killed so that I could refer back to it and keep track of what was going on. And it's really nice to have that in front of you, and it's a practice that I can recommend to you. Finally, I'll touch on a theme, recurring motif, whatever. It comes up a lot in The Savior's Champion, and I haven't heard other reviewers talk about it. We can call it discipline in speech. Now, Tobias's habits of when and how he speaks are constantly juxtaposed with other characters. Tobias leans toward being the strong, silent type. He's disciplined and guarded and doesn't speak all that often in comparison with the other characters. Others speak much more freely, and often they speak too much. They suffer, and sometimes they die because of it. On occasion, Tobias also gets in trouble due to his speech. Tobias is also direct and honest to a fault, and we are drawn to this. I was drawn to Tobias's basic honesty that was also coupled with his discipline in speaking. He doesn't talk nearly as much as most of the other characters, but because he has a low tolerance for bullshit, the relatively few number of times he does speak makes each thing he says count more. Juxtaposed to a lot of the other characters, many of whom haven't learned a basic life lesson, that one of the really, really big ways you get in trouble in this world is with your mouth. This not only comes up in one character telling another something that they don't want to hear, but it also comes up in the realm of gossip and slander. The world that you and I live in is drowning in that, so I don't think I have to elaborate much here, except to say that the issue of self-discipline in speech came up many, many times in the book, and I'm glad it did. How honest should you be, and why, is a recurring theme in this book, and I'm glad the author emphasized it. So that's all I got for you today. Hope you enjoyed this review, and I hope you enjoyed spending time with Jojo and Kracko. It's their debut video. Bye.